It's not just a boulder, it's a rock. And today we are introducing a new segment called Storytime. For this first episode of many, we are talking about Parker Otto Ackley and the 22 earegsplitten loudenboomer. The 22 earegsplitten loudenboomer. It's a great name, just for starters. Mm-hmm. It really is.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. In the 1960s, I actually surprisingly couldn't find an exact date. It's just the 1960s when it was developed, tested, and inevitably given up upon. A gunsmith and author named Peter Otto Ackley wanted to make a 22 caliber bullet go 5,000 feet per second. So he naturally, of course, created the 22 earegsplitten loudenboomer by necking down a 378 Witherby Magnum casing to fit a 22 caliber bullet, then packing the casing as full as he could get it with gunpowder and making a customized chamber to fire the round. Mr. Ackley and his team were able to get the 22 up to 4,600 feet per second. Sadly, not the desired 5,000, but that's still 4.08 Mach, nearly twice the unclassified top speed of an F-22. But once again, sadly, not the 5,000 feet per second. Mm-hmm. It's very, very quick.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to put in the scale of like.
Yeah,
it's going 4,600 feet per second, which I guess I should have looked up that number of like how far a good like town to town, city to city register of 4,600 feet is.
Yeah, right. And for like people who don't know about guns, like that's like really fast as far as bullet speed goes.
Yeah,
which I will bring up some of that in the next part. So yeah, for reference, a 22 caliber bullet of your standard variety has an average velocity of 1,070 feet per second with a 40 grain projectile. A little bit slower. And a 378 Witherby Magnum bullet travels at an average velocity of 3,180 feet per second from a 270 grain bullet, or 2,925 feet per second from a 300 grain projectile. So still a lot slower. The fastest production round today is a 220 Swift, which after learning this I want. Is a 220 Swift, and that travels at an average velocity of 4,665 feet per second with a 29 grain bullet. So even with modern technology, they've only around 60 years later too. So it's been a while. And then also with the lighter bullet, that's 11 grains lighter, which is a significant amount, especially since it's such a small amount. Like that's just an overall small round. The modern bullet is only
11 grains lighter.
Yeah, the modern bullet is 11 grains lighter. And the casing is also bigger, so there's more powder behind it. So I don't know how P. Otto Ackley and his team managed to get the 22 going so hot when they're using more modern technology, better powder, better everything, and a lighter bullet, and they can barely get it to go any faster. So good on him.
That's insane.
And, of course, still short of the 5,000 feet per second, which is very, very quick.
Mm-hmm. Dude, that's wild.
Yeah.
Like
I wanted 22 earegsplitten loudenboomer, but sadly it was only ever for the testing. Like they were like, oh, it didn't hit 5,000, so we're just gonna not produce it. But then later, around today's time, they made the 220 Swift, which is still a very fast and neat round. It's just slightly more boring.
Yeah. Yeah, because they didn't just shove it inside another casing and do whatever they wanted with it.
Yeah, they made like a custom casing for it compared to being modifying what was already around. But I guess that fits the time. You know, you just modify what you have in the 60s. Where today you just make new because
right.
If you shot that bullet in LA towards New York, it would take 53 minutes to arrive in.
That's insane.
Like that's insane.
Yeah.
It crosses
it
the
didn't
entire
last
country.
Course, but that's in less than an hour.
Because it's 2,500 miles in less than an hour.
Isn't that like what the SR-71 does?
It's faster than the SR-71 because 1,000 feet per second is like is what the speed of sound? Maybe close.
I don't remember. That's one of the things I don't have
so.
on here.
But if it is, then that's 4.6 times the speed of sound, which the SR-71 37. Like, I guess recorded accounts of like 4.1, but
Right.
still, that's 0.6 Mach faster than any SR-71.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's
What we're
wild.
saying is it's a really slow projectile.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might as well be
But I
firing
mean,
a
if you imagine,
paintball gun.
yeah, if you imagine using that in like against armor with how small that round is and how fast it's going, it'd do so well.
Yeah, imagine instead of like
Yeah.
a lead bullet, it's like a tungsten chunk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so
Depleted
it's
goes
like
straight
so
through armor.
dense. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, depleted uranium.
Well, like,
Yeah, if you
okay,
have something
well, how?
that small that's like pretty weighty.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because it carries the momentum with like depleted uranium because it's so heavy. It carries momentum through the armor, but it's because it's going so fast and it's so tiny. It's not like it's touching a ton of armor. It's just going through this tiny little dot.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But anyway, turning away from the earegsplitten loudenboomer, which once again is a way better name than 22 Swift, even though that is a good name.
Yeah.
It's time to focus more on Parker Otto Ackley himself. Because, a lot of people not everybody, a lot of people seem to know the meme of like the 22 earegsplitten loudenboomer, but no one actually knows who made it, why, and all of the other things. So yeah, Peter Otto Ackley, born May 25th, 1903 in Grainville, Washington County, New York. And, after his education, graduating from Syracuse University, Mr. Ackley began gunsmithing full-time in Oregon in 1939. That's when he started doing it on the side. He wasn't doing it as a full-time yet. He was rudely interrupted by the small event, I'm not sure if y'all have heard of it, called World War II. After the war, in 1945, Mr. Ackley established a new shop in Trinidad, Colorado, and he quickly became one of the largest custom gun makers in the United States. His business was dubbed Wildcat Cartridges, where he and his staff would modify popular rounds such as 22, 30-06, 475 Magnum, and around 30 other things. At least 30 other cartridges. That's recorded. There's probably way more that he just never cared enough to actually record.
Right.
Along with a lot of ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And part of that, like, we're probably missing information is this was taking place through the 40s, through the 70s. So there's a good chance, like, none of this really made it to computers, besides what few things have made it to computers, but definitely not everything.
Right.
Like, most of his designs, you can't even find blueprints or anything like that.
Dang.
Huh, interesting.
As well as being a gunsmith, and a successful one at that, with he and his team, Mr. Ackley was also an author, writing 3 books. The first one being Home Gun Care and Repair, which is, I think, a really nice name. It just rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah.
And then the 2 volumes of Handbook for Shooters and Reloaders, which is just kind of like Gun Care and Repair, but more focusing on the ammunition itself. And yeah, that's 2 volumes. Which, yeah. He was also one of the writers of Guns and Ammo and the Shooting Times magazines. And he wasn't just he was a gunsmith, author, writer, and he was also a teacher at the Trinidad State Junior College from 1946 to 1951. And this is where a lot of his initial firearm experimentation happened, where he would start doing wacky things with wacky rounds to make them even wackier in the best possible way.
Right.
And this is also where things like the 22 earegsplitten and loudenboomer were born. And sadly, on August 23rd, 1989, Parker Otto Ackley died in Holiday, Salt Lake County, Utah, at the age of 89. So yeah.
Old man.
Mm-hmm. He had a wife and 2 daughters, but all have passed as of 2017.
Dang, that's really sad.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he was born in 1903, so it's not like his daughters didn't die all that young. One of them did.
Right.
Died
Yeah.
in 86. The other one died in 27.
Wow.
Oh, okay. I wonder what he could have done with like modern equipment and stuff.
Oh yeah, with modern tech, I'm sure he would create some of the most beautiful calibers. Like, what's that one company?
Yeah.
Preston, you probably know them. It's the ones. It's is it Q, the gun and
Yeah,
company?
they make the 300 blackout and the 8.7.
I'm sure he would be kind of like them, where he makes really crazy and beautiful things.
Yeah,
because he can.
subsonic rounds that you can't hear.
Yeah, and like having the rotation rates of the rifling be like 3 times what normal cartridges are, because it makes it more stable since it's such a low velocity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, he definitely did. If he and his company is one of the top gun not manufacturers, but modification and like research companies in the United States between the 40s up until the 70s, it had to have had an impact on stuff. And like I said, he and his team modified 30 different rounds that became popular rounds and like useful ones, let alone all of the ones that were completely forgotten and lost to history, almost like the earegsplitten loudenboomer. But for some reason, there's a meme about it that keeps it remembered.
Yeah. Dang. Well, yeah, I don't think it's just randomly. It's a wild.
It is. And like, Evan, you'll have to put pictures in when you edit it, of course. Just like looking at it, like the picture of it next to a 30-06, it's taller, wider. It's bigger in every way than a 30-06, but it has a tiny little 22 caliber bullet on the end.
Yeah, and it's like if you look at pictures where it's just standing by itself, it's like, oh, it must be like pretty small. And then you do put it next to the 30-06, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you put it next to rounds that are very common and that people actually know, and you're like, oh, that's a lot of powder behind a tiny little bullet. It's amazing.
Yeah. And what was the grain for the bullet again?
For the 22 earegsplitten loudenboomer, it's around 40. That's all I could find. It's like a standard 22 caliber
really
bullet.
Not that big of a round. Yeah.
That's
crazy.
Yeah.
And to think that the modern one is
even smaller.
What, like 30? Yeah.
The modern one is only 29 grains.
Yeah, which is just insane.
Which a grain is just the unit of measurement that they use for bullet sizes, like the actual bullet itself, not the casing and the powder and everything else. Just the part that actually gets fired.
Yeah.
Kind of like grams, but not.
It had its own special measurement for some reason.
Well, they still use it today. That's just like what they use for bullets.
Yeah, they do.
Like, because bullets get their special measuring thing here in the United States because we love our guns and ammo.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you measure? Do you measure powder in grams?
I think it's grams.
Right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 22 earegsplitten loudenboomer. Now you know a little bit more than what the meme tells you.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Amazing.
Get learned. Learned's a great word.
All right. Is that the video then?
I'd say so, unless you guys have any more questions.
No, you were concise, bro.
Yeah,
That's good.